Coming up today, THAAD talks begin. Seoul and Washington launch a joint working group to discuss plans to deploy the highly sophisticated missile defense system to South Korea. With inter-Korean tension bubbling over UN sanctions and upcoming South Korea-US military drills, Kim Jong-un orders his generals to have nuclear weapons in a state of readiness. First, it's open warfare in the Republican Party. Mitt Romney, the man who lost to President Obama 4 years ago, declares Donald Trump a phony and a fraud. Stay tuned for these stories and more. Hello, it's noon on Friday, the 4th of March. You're tuned in to our midday newscast here on Arirang TV. Thank you for joining us. I'm Mark Broom. Our top story this afternoon. South Korea and the United States have signed an agreement to set up a joint working group to discuss the possible deployment of the THAAD missile defense system to the Korean Peninsula. We have our Defense Ministry correspondent Kim Hyun-bin standing by for us at the Ministry of National Defense in Seoul. So Hyun-bin, these talks are ongoing. What can we expect for the rest of the day?
That's right, Mark. Seoul and Washington signed an agreement a little over an hour ago to officially start the talks of the possible deployment of THAAD here in Korea. Now, the two sides will discuss all the pre-requirements that need to be ironed out to deploy THAAD on the peninsula, including the location of THAAD, management, safety, and cost sharing of the U.S. missile defense system. The sides are co-headed by the South Korean military's Director General Chang Kyung-soo and U.S. Forces Korea Major General Robert Hitterland. The first working group is scheduled to be held here at the ministry at 3 p.m. local time. And the ministry says that the THAAD deployment is being discussed due to the increasing threats from Pyongyang and in response to the communist regime's fourth nuclear test and long-distance rocket launch earlier this year.
Yeah, and while we're on the topic of threats out of North Korea, the short-distance, short-range projectiles fired by the regime on Thursday are believed to be new additions to the North's military hardware. Tell us more about those.
Well, that's correct. Military officials says that around 8 short-range projectiles fired on Thursday are thought to have been launched from North Korea's newly developed 300mm multiple rocket launchers. Now, North Korean leader Kim Jong-un is believed to have presided over the launch at Wonsan, Gangwon-do province. Now, this new weapon has a range of up to 200 kilometers, and when fired from the border, can target the newly built U.S. base in Pyeongtaek in Gyeonggi-do province. Now, military officials say that the 300mm multiple rocket launcher is almost ready for placement on the front lines, and added that the South Korean military needs to come up with new countermeasures to neutralize the weaponry. Now, South Korea has been developing its own multiple rocket launcher known as the Chunmoo, but the system only has a range of 80 kilometers, which will not have enough firepower to neutralize North Korea's newly developed 300mm multiple rocket launchers. Well, this is all I have for now. I'll bring more updates in the later newscasts.
Now, well over 24 hours have passed since the UN Security Council adopted its latest resolution against North Korea, but Pyongyang has yet to issue an official written response. None of the country's state-run media outlets have actually reported on the resolution itself. Now, the United States says it's closely monitoring the situation, especially after North Korea fired those short-range projectiles into the East Sea on Thursday. A spokesperson for the U.S. State Department told Seoul-based Yonhap news agency that Washington is keeping close tabs on Pyongyang, but the South Korean government would be better able to provide more details. And Russia is urging North Korea to make the right choice regarding the UN resolution and to come back to the negotiating table. The country's foreign ministry says the resolution shows the Security Council will not tolerate the North's irresponsible game of using nuclear-capable missiles. Moscow endorsed the resolution, saying it was left with no choice, as Pyongyang had ignored previous resolutions calling for it to promptly abandon its nuclear missile programs. The Russian Foreign Ministry said it hoped the North would come back to the negotiating table to ease tensions in Northeast Asia and resolve the nuclear issue on the Korean Peninsula. The talks are seen as referring to the 6-party talks on denuclearizing North Korea that haven't been held since 2008. Now, facing tough new UN sanctions, North Korean leader Kim Jong-un has issued a stark order to the country's military: be prepared to fire nukes at any time. However, this isn't the first time Kim has used such rhetoric, with experts saying the regime often makes threats like this at times of elevated tension. Connie Kim with the details.
The UN sanctions slapped on North Korea seem to have provoked the reclusive regime to increase its belligerent acts. North Korea's official Korean Central News Agency reported its young leader Kim Jong-un has ordered his military to prepare to fire nuclear warheads at a moment's notice. Kim gave the command while attending the test firing of a new multiple rocket launcher. Speculation is that North Korea fired 6 short-range projectiles toward the EC on Thursday from this location, adding that the North cannot sit idly by and watch the current situation on the peninsula. Kim has ordered his regime to revise its military posture to facilitate preemptive strikes. For the first time, Kim has addressed the South Korean president by her name and claimed that her madness would lead to self-destruction. Kim's provocative remarks indicate that tensions on the Korean peninsula will continue, especially with UN sanctions recently finalized on North Korea. In fact, the escalating tensions are a predictable pattern of behavior exhibited by Pyongyang. In 2013, after the UN Security Council imposed sanctions, Pyongyang also fired short-range projectiles in response. Recent imagery from 38 North shows new activity at the North's rocket launch site, leaving the possibility open for a rocket engine test or that the unpredictable regime could forge ahead with another surprise provocation. Connie Kim, Arirang News.
Now, in other news, with just 40 days remaining until Koreans head to the polls for the April 13th general election, the nation's political parties are speeding up their candidate screening processes. The ruling Saenuri Party, the main opposition Minju Party of Korea, and the minor opposition People's Party are all busy checking their candidates' credentials in the run-up to the election. They hope to weed out the bottom group candidates to make room for some fresh faces for the future. The election will take place as scheduled on April 13th after lawmakers approved a new electoral map that better reflects recent population changes in Korea. Korea's foreign exchange reserves dipped for a 4th straight month in February. According to the Bank of Korea, the country's reserves came to just under $365.8 billion, down around $1.5 billion from the previous month. The central bank attributed the drop to a decline in the value of non-US dollar assets such as the euro and the British pound. The British currency, for one, traded at an average of $1.38 a pound in February. That's down 3.5% on month. As of the end of January, Korea was the world's 7th largest holder of foreign reserves, with China topping the list. Pre-orders of Samsung's new flagship smartphones, the Galaxy S7 and Galaxy S7 Edge, have started here in Korea. The devices are available with all 3 of Korea's main mobile networks, and those ordering early will also receive a free Samsung Gear VR headset or a wireless charging battery pack. In certain international markets, pre-orders have been available since February 21st, and some users in the US have reportedly already received their phones. The global release date is next Friday, March 11th. LG's latest smartphone, the G5, will also be hitting the market in the coming weeks, but as of yet, there's no official release date. LG says it will launch the G5 in late March or early April. Now, in the US, former presidential candidate Mitt Romney has slammed Donald Trump, saying he's unfit for the White House, and other establishment Republicans have followed suit. Now, Trump, as you'd expect, wasn't shy in his response. Park Jung-hong reports.
It was a blistering attack against the Republican frontrunner in the race to the White House. Former Republican presidential nominee Mitt Romney slammed Donald Trump, taking aim at what he said were his abrasive rhetoric, personal qualities, and ill-advised policy ideas.
This is an individual who mocked a disabled reporter, who attributed a reporter's questions to her menstrual cycle, who mocked a brilliant rival who happened to be a woman due to her appearance, who bragged about his marital affairs, and who laces his public speeches with vulgarity. Donald Trump says he admires Vladimir Putin, At the same time, he's called George W. Bush a liar. That is a twisted example of evil trumping good.
Romney's remarks were echoed by Republican Senator John McCain, who was a GOP nominee in 2008. Saying he shared Romney's concerns, McCain asked voters to think long and hard about whether they wanted to pick Trump as president. The divide between establishment Republicans and Trump supporters started deepening after the billionaire property developer won most of the states up for grabs in this week's Super Tuesday primaries, taking him a step closer to securing the party's nomination. The party's old guard is uneasy about Trump's plans to build a wall along America's border with Mexico and temporarily ban Muslim refugees from entering the country. Trump supporters say the mainstream figures do not reflect their concerns about illegal immigration, the sluggish economy, and what they see as America's diminishing role in the world. Reacting to Romney's attack, Trump dismissed the former nominee and tweeted, quote, "Why did Mitt Romney beg me for my endorsement 4 years ago?" Trump claims he's being treated unfairly by the Republican Party and may decide to run as an independent, taking millions of voters with him. Park Jong-hong, Arirang News.
Now, staying with international news, and French President François Hollande has warned that there will be consequences if Britain leaves the European Union, including over immigration matters. Despite his strong words at the conclusion of a one-day Anglo-French summit in France on Thursday, Hollande did admit that a so-called Brexit would not be catastrophic. British Prime Minister David Cameron, who is in favour of staying in the EU, said Britain was stronger, safer and better off within a reformed EU. The leaders also announced a $2.1 billion deal to develop combat drones. The British public will vote on whether to stay in or leave the European Union on June 23rd. Now, there's less than a week to go until the world's best Go player takes on an AI program developed by Google. THAAD and AlphaGO will go toe-to-toe in the ultimate man versus machine battle. Our Kim Ji-yeon reports on how thinks the match will play out.
Korean grandmaster THAAD and AlphaGO, a computer program developed by Google, will compete in 5 rounds of the game of Go in Seoul starting next Wednesday on March 9th until the 15th. Grandmaster Lee, who is currently in Shanghai for the Nongsim Cup World Paduk Championship, says he is not afraid to lose to AlphaGO because he believes he can actually win. 33-year-old Lee says he's anticipating the upcoming match, which is the first official match of Go between a human and artificial intelligence. Grandmaster Lee predicts that the match will either be a clean sweep or a 4-1 win for himself, adding that the first match should indicate how the rest of the games will play out. Grandmaster Lee says he will grant AlphaGo a rematch if he wins, and could be a more difficult match, saying he believes there will be a day computers will outrun humans in the near future. But he adds that day is not today. For now, Grandmaster Lee says he looks forward to seeing his daughter in Korea this weekend and plans to stay with her until his upcoming match with AlphaGo. Up until now, it was believed that the ancient game of Go was a board game that computers couldn't crack due to its complexity. But Google looks to change that, with AlphaGo already defeating European Go champion Fan Hui 5 times out of 5 tournaments in a test match in October. Kim Ji-yeon, Arirang News.
Now, after a seemingly never-ending winter, it's finally starting to feel like spring here in Korea. Today should be the warmest day of the year so far, with temperatures well into the double digits. But you may want to postpone your picnic plans as the entire country is going to see rain over the next couple of days. Oh Se-young reports.
Friday will be the warmest day of the year thus far, with the mercury starting off at 7 degrees Celsius in Seoul. The daytime high in the Korean capital is expected to peak at a comfortable 15 degrees Celsius. It will feel even warmer in cities down south, such as Gwangju, Jeonju and Daegu, with the temperature topping out at 17 degrees. The southern resort of Jeju will be the warmest place to be, reaching 20 degrees Celsius in the afternoon. However, the warm conditions will bring cloudy skies and rain throughout the country. It's already started pouring in the southern cities of Jeollanam-do and Gyeongsangnam-do province. With bouts of thunder and lightning, the rain is expected to intensify overnight and last through Saturday. So you might want to put away your puffy jacket for the day, but do make sure you carry an umbrella. 오수영, Arirang News.
Well, those are the stories we have been following on this Friday afternoon here in Seoul. For more of the latest, don't forget to check out our website, arirang.com/news. And it's also worth checking out our smartphone application. You can just search for Arirang TV in the usual places. Have a wonderful weekend. Goodbye.